Welcome in, everybody. See, I don't want to be that guy because I told you so, but I told you so. I told you the Astros come into game 4, steal one, you'd feel a lot differently. It's hard to not feel a lot differently this evening. Christian Javier, obviously the story of the night. We will get into that more in detail. I want to welcome everybody into the Sports Map World Series Game 4 post-game show. I am Brandon Strange. That's Josh Jordan. He's the editor of sportsmaphouston.com. In fact, that's why we were a little late coming on, was because Josh was putting the finishing touches on the post-game recap. So you can always check that content out at sportsmaphouston.com. I want to just give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Academy Sports and Outdoors. The World Series is here, so go get your Astros themed World Series merch at Academy or Academy Sports, or excuse me, academy.com or Academy Sports and Outdoors. We will talk about them a little bit more, but I can see everybody's a little bit more invigorated to get into the conversation tonight. So do what you normally do when we do this, which is put your comments in. We're going to start featuring some comments real soon. I don't know, we haven't really had a pitcher's duel in this entire series. You had Nola get shelled, Verlander, Wheeler, McCullers, all got shelled. So we thought, would this be the night that it would be the pitcher's duel? Well, it would be one-sided. Christian Javier versus Aaron Nola. Astros score 5 runs on 6 hits in the combined no-hitter from the Astros pitching. This was much more as the series was billed, which was the Astros can win on the road in the playoffs, and their bullpen and starting pitching can be dominating. And up until this point, the bullpen had lived up to their end of the deal. It's been the starting pitching that has let Houston down game after game. Josh, what did you think of this game 4?
Man, it was awesome. I mean, it was a little nerve-wracking, right? Nothing really got going until the 5th inning. That's when we finally started to see some Astros get on base. And, man, Javier was dominant, obviously, all the way through that point. Once he's got that fastball and slider going, and we always talk about it, Brandon, when he's accurate, when he's hitting his spots, he's almost untouchable. And you saw that tonight. He was just brilliant. Nice to see the Astros cash in there in the 5th. Bases loaded, nobody out, put the pressure on the Phillies, come through with some big hits, and then the pitching staff closes the door. Awesome. It seems like every time Javier goes out there, it's a game like this. It was like this when he was pitching against the Yankees. The guy has been unbelievable. I am the charter member of his fan club, so I love Christian Javier. It makes me so excited to see him perform like this. And they needed this tonight. They needed a performance like this. They got it back in the series. I couldn't be more excited. You must have been just freaking out on your couch, right? The only thing that bothered me, I'm sure this bothered you too. I think the broadcast team said no hitter about 7,000 times.
Yeah,
it was like they were just trolling us eventually.
I had that in my notes. I was like, they're literally trying to set the record for the most time saying no hitter on a broadcast. They even had a counter. They had a counter on the graphic on the little overlay, the little bug that's over the screen there that was tracking the no-hitter through the different innings. So, you can't argue with the result, though. As try as they might, and as superstitious as we all are, they completed the combined no-hitter, I should say.
But we remember the Verlander game with Verducci goes in there and asks Dusty about the no-hitter, and then they proceed to score 3 runs and then 2 more after Verlander. So after that, I was a little more upset, but they got the job done.
Yeah. But that just goes to show you when you got the goods, it doesn't matter about jinxes. Verlander got shelled because he didn't have the goods. Javier showed up with all the goods tonight. That dude really, really, really had a great night. 6 innings pitched, 97 pitches, 2 walks.
Yep.
That's really key too. 2 walks, 9 Ks, no hits. You couldn't have asked for a bigger performance out of Christian Javier. It almost begs the question, should Christian have started in game 3 so that you are able to kind of combat that momentum. We'll do some more hypotheticals like that in a second, but I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what you said here about Christian Javier, because we're going to be talking about him this evening. Strikes out the side in the first, sets the tone. Strikes out, I think, 2 in the second, only needs 30 pitches to get through the first 2 innings. And this is how you start knowing that Christian Javier is in a groove here. He has 20 pitches in the third, which was his longest, 12 pitches in the fourth, in which he strikes out the side, and then 15 pitches in the bottom of the fifth, in which he induced, I think all of them were ground balls. But dude never broke a sweat. The broadcast talked about that a lot. Smoltzy's a pitcher, so he admires other pitchers, and he always kind of tells the narrative through pitchers. And the admiration shone through with Smoltzy. He's like, this guy's not even sweating in these moments. This is such a big moment. And dude just looks like it's the middle of August to him. Just goes back to the bench between innings, just chills, kind of finds his zen place, goes back out there, marches to the beat of his own drummer, and that drum beat seems to be relatively low. It seemed to be a slow, calm, methodical,
low BPM
here tonight. Yeah, low BPM for sure. Thank you, musician nerd.
Yes.
If I didn't say that. It sounds crazy to say, Josh. It sounds crazy to say. Do you feel that maybe he was squeezed a little bit too?
A little bit. There were a few low ones where I was kind of surprised it went our way. I had a little hypothesis in my head in watching the umpires that they're calling everything for the Phillies except for when the Astros are down, and they don't want to be a short series. The MLB, they want this to go 6 or 7 games for all that TV money. So it really feels like, because the Astros were favored, a lot of the calls were going to the Phillies, and then when the series started tilting back towards the Phillies, they really just give the Astros fair calls. I feel like they've been squeezed through the whole series. So if a couple went Houston's way, they deserved it today because they were getting killed yesterday.
I feel like last night and tonight really favored. I can't even say that it favored. I just felt like Javier was squeezed. I felt like Abreu got squeezed a little bit too. Pitches that were well within the quadrant were getting
not even touching
balls.
the line.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Inside within the quadrant that were getting called balls.
Yep.
You
still struck out the side.
but that's exactly it. That's exactly it. We talk about this all the time. Blaming the umps is loser talk, because what Christian Javier did was went out there with a game plan, which was, I'm not going to let it come down to whether this gets called or not. I'm going to fill up the zone, and I'm going to make guys swing and miss at my stuff. I'm going to throw my pitches and set the tone. And he did throughout the entire game. He went in there looking to throw strikes, which he did, which is super important for Christian Javier to be able to control the tempo of the game. His stuff works better when he can control it. And he had paint going tonight, pinpoint accuracy when he needed it, and incredible movement and run on his fastball, where guys just could not square it up. It's what he's known for. It's a testament to how many big names are on the Astros team as he gets buried. He's starting fourth in this series and is arguably your best pitcher in the playoffs outside of Fromber. And so I will say this, looking ahead a little bit, the Astros now have Verlander set to go
tomorrow.
In tomorrow night's game. I don't want to jinx anything or speak too soon. Let's say Verlander is not Verlander-esque. Well, that means regardless of what happens tomorrow night, whether Verlander is dominant or whether Verlander gets touched up again, you go back home with Fromber on the mound.
Yeah.
How much better does that make you feel that now the pitching lines up to where when you return home for game 6, and we now know there will at least be a game 6 in this series, it will take place at Minute Maid, and now Fromber Valdez will be on the mound at home. That's not the worst scenario in the world, right?
No, you'll take that. Obviously, you hope everything goes well tomorrow. And let's be honest, the Astros bats, they come and they go, and Verlander could pitch great tomorrow, and it just may not be enough. It's just been so fluky. But I like the momentum that this sends. This message of, the Phillies needed something to put them in check. The way they were hitting McCullers around yesterday, they needed an ego check, and nothing more than being no hit on your own field in the World Series. I mean, that felt good, and that's going to be in the back of their minds, and that I think that helps Verlander a little bit too. Just to feel a little bit of that momentum. He saw how Javier went after some of these guys. Maybe he can learn a few things from how Javier approached them, just as far as working the fastball more, in good spots, hitting corners.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was laughing at Christ him Javier. That's pretty clever. And what can you say on the flip side of that? Nola got hit up for 5 runs in their first meeting in game 1. This game 4 does not get out of the 5th inning. Goes 4 1/3, 3 runs on 7 hits. Obviously, he got pulled before the damage got done. It was Alvarado who gave up the damage. And I guess we should go ahead and talk about that top of the 5th when the floodgates came open.
Started with McCormick, and he's been a big part.
It did start with McCormick, but here's what's really important. Diaz, who's been a giant black hole in the DH, starting in the 8th or batting 8th, actually allows this to happen because McCormick's in the 9 spot, who can now get on. He gets a leadoff infield hit, so now he's on for Altuve. If we went by percentage and how bad someone's hitting, unfortunately for Diaz, who's just literally in the middle of it, we'll talk about him a little bit more. We'll talk about that DH spot a little bit more. But because Diaz is batting 8th, McCormick's in the 9th, so he's actually able to get on ahead for Altuve. Altuve then hits his only hit of the night, gets a single. So now you've got no outs, 2 on. Pena hits a sharp base hit to left to load the bases, no outs. It was so fast. It was such a sharp liner out to left that you couldn't score off of it. So the base runners go station to station. It's now bases loaded with no outs. So Thompson has to go lift. Nola trying to limit the damage. But the problem is that for Jose Alvarado, that's a tough ask. You got to pitch basically a perfect game. You're coming in, bases loaded, scoreless game, no outs against one of the most lethal left-handers in the game. What were you thinking at that matchup with Thompson going and getting Nola, bringing in Alvarado for Jordan?
I mean, it made total sense because, you go get the lefty on lefty. He was nasty in game 1 when he came in, and he was nasty tonight. He just, a little wild and he was still throwing over 100. I mean, it was gross, but first pitch, he drills Jordan right in the kidney.
Yeah.
The 101 mile an hour fastball. Like, ooh.
That was like insane. But again, that's tough. And Rob Thompson, give Rob Thompson credit because he's managed a good World Series to this point. He's been hyper aggressive on making these decisions. But this is one of those in which being aggressive like that can bite you in the behind. And it's really the result that allows the rest of us to be, revisionist judges and say like, oh, well, you shouldn't have done, you left him in too long or you took him out too quick. And Rob Thompson had his sort of Dodgers moment, where Dave Roberts is always, changing pitchers. He had sort of his Dave Roberts moment where that he pulls but what do you do? I mean,
it was the right move.
Nola clearly doesn't have it. Yeah. With Alvarado coming in with his nasty stuff, you're just trying to limit damage. You're probably not going to get out of that without giving up a run or two. Sure. Because you've loaded the bases. The heart of the order is up for the Astros.
It's Tucker, Brandon. I think more of this was about Tucker, knowing that, Jordan's up and then Breggy, but Tucker has been touching up Nola like crazy. Yeah. Those 2 bombs, he hit him hard today too. Yeah. I think a lot of this was Kyle Tucker, like, nope, let's go ahead and just do this now, lefty on lefty with Yordan, because I'm sure as hell pulling him before he pitches to Tucker. So
yeah,
I think that was a big part of it.
It made sense against the two lefties. So you bring
And no
Alvarado
outs.
into face against Yordan and Tucker. So, like you said, Alvarado hits Yordan with the first pitch. So there's your RBI hit by pitch for Yordan Alvarez. Bregman ropes an 0-2 pitch down the right field line.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest hit of the game. 0-2 pitch for a 2-run RBI. That makes it 3-0 Astros. Again, you still don't have an out at this point. Tucker gets a sac fly to center. That scores Yordan. Bregman moves to third. That makes it 4-0 Astros. And then Yuli. RBI single. La Pena really reborn in this postseason. Absolutely reborn in this postseason. You could not have counted on this if you were judging by the regular season. That's why we always talk about that there are two different monsters, regular season and postseason.
Yeah.
And Yuli's come to life in the postseason. And here we go again. This is La Pena's specialty. Guys scoring position, and he's able to
ankle high.
Yeah. and just gets enough of it to get it through the shift and into left field. And that makes it 5-0 Astros. The Astros wouldn't score another run the rest of the game. They would not need to, because they would not give up any hits. But 5-0 Astros is the final here. And coming off of a 7-0 game, that feels like a million years ago.
Yeah.
Getting punched in the mouth, 7-0. Yankees fans going crazy. Oh, Yankees crowd. Oh, we made Mattress Mac go.
Philly crowd.
Break his brain. Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, it's only as good as the last game. And we talk about it all the time, which is they could have scored 20 runs. That's worth one game. That's worth one win. And then tonight, the Astros are going to, they shut them out, no hits, but again, only worth one win. So as good as you feel right now, just understand in perspective. But when you win last, it's recency bias. You feel pretty good about this. And the Astros have to feel good about this. We talked about it last night. Their main focus, the call to action, was to steal one in Philly. They've done it now. Now anything else is gravy. So, because you're going back to game 6 in Houston and you've got Fromber on the mound. If Verlander is able to recapture some Verlander magic and keep the Phillies offense from exploding, that's going to put the Astros in a very, very, very enviable position.
It is. Let's also keep in mind, this is the first time the Phillies have lost at home in this entire postseason.
Thank you. Yeah.
And they didn't just lose. They got no hit at home.
Right.
I mean, what a series this has been. Just a title fight of haymakers back and forth.
Yes.
Philly just comes out and blasts you with all those home runs. And then you come out the next game and no hit their ass. Christian Javier is incredible. I mean, what a great series. And I was worried still, because you could see what the Phillies can do, man. But these Astros, that bullpen, and Christian Javier, I give it up to Brian Abreu. He was great. Yes. Montero was great. Presley scared us for a second, old Stressley, but he did a great job. He got out of it. And I love the batting order tonight too. You talked about it, having Aledmys Diaz hitting there in the 8 spot, to where you got McCormick is kind of your second leadoff hitter in the 9 spot. And then you have Vasquez before Aledmys Diaz, who is usually, a pretty good hitter. So This batting lineup felt good to me when they released it. The only problem is, the one negative, Aledmys Diaz, dude cannot buy a hit. Anybody that DHs for the Astros can't buy a hit. I was a little surprised that they went with Diaz. Hensley actually got a hit, but when they
that's what I was going to say. They did buy a hit last night. It was with Hensley. David Hensley, who also has
him for Mancini.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. Well, look. Yeah. I was shocked to see even Hensley crack this lineup at all. Yeah. Really was the fact that on the road in the World Series, Dusty was going to trust David Hensley to get a start, and so he did. I'm not surprised that they go back to the veterans again. I'm also not surprised at the result, just giving how Aledmys Diaz looks right now. Smoltz described him as jumpy. I think that's a great way of describing it right now. He's completely off balance and off time. And it just is what it is. While Aledmys Diaz is off time, I would say if you are looking for your Astros World Series gear, then you can be on time to go visit Academy Sports and Outdoors. Josh, why don't you tell them about Academy Sports?
Yeah, guys, look, the World Series is clearly here. It is 2-2. Astros tied it up tonight. No hit the Phillies. What's a better day to go get some Astros gear than tonight, or on academy.com, or go get some tomorrow? And the best thing about Academy, they have the best prices. They got locations everywhere, but they have all the stuff you want. They got the caps, they have the t-shirts, they have the jerseys. Do you have a Christian Javier jersey yet? You probably should. And you know who has the officially licensed Astros stuff is Academy. You want that official Javier jersey. You don't want that imitation one. Javier's the real deal. You want the real deal too. Get over to Academy, guys. They have all the best brands, Nike, whatever you need. They got the best stuff over at Academy, guys. So go get that gear today. Your Astros are back in it. We're definitely going back to Houston. You want to go watch an Astros watch party in Houston for Game 6? You want to go to the game? Well, you want to have the right gear. And Academy Sports and Outdoors is the place to go get it. Best prices, best selection. Guys, they are getting new styles every day. Academy Sports and Outdoors.
They are. Thank you, Josh. I want to go in and read some comments before we get back to our game here. Moises says, big dub.
Yep.
And Philip says he's with you. He's in the Christian Javier fan.
Who's not at this point?
Yeah,
everybody can come in the club. We're pulling back the velvet rope. Everybody, come on in.
Warren also says he's in your Javier fan.
All right, Warren.
Robbie says
we're in it together.
It's cooking. Heather says she mutes her TV.
Heather has a lot of smart comments, I've come to find.
Yeah.
I was getting very angry listening to that broadcast.
Abreu deserves a ton of credit. Oh, yeah. I think everyone pitching tonight really does. I mean, all of the bullpen except for Presley. Presley allowed one base runner, and that was it. That was the first base runner since, the fifth or something like that? It was
fourth, I think. And it was Schwarber, which he tried to get him to chase. He didn't go for it.
Yeah.
He's a good hitter, but it didn't matter today.
That's funny. Let's see. This gets us into a good question. Sam says you definitely start him in Game 7. We heard from Lance McCullers post game, and they talked about he, to his credit, took a lot of accountability, put a lot of it on him. I mean, there was. Whether we're talking tipping pitches or whatever the case is.
It looks like he was, after we watched all the people study it over the course of today. And it looks like it wasn't the leg kick. It looks like it was something he was doing with his glove. What worries me about that, Brandon, is fixing something like that in such a short amount of time. That's scary, man, to kind of recorrect your mechanics with that quick a turnaround and not do it again. That worries me a lot. I don't think I'd be going back to McCullers in this series. I think it'll be next year. But
yeah, sure. No, I know what you mean. Well, that was that was what I was going to ask you, which is what do you do now? Because McCullers, that's what McCullers said was, now I just need to get ready for Game 7, but I wouldn't want him anywhere near a Game 7 if I'm being completely honest. I'm with our commenters here. I think it's Christian Javier who has to get the nod for a Game 7, right?
He's going on short rest. Today's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, pitching on Sunday. So, you're pitching on that fourth day.
Yeah.
That's not ideal. You'd prefer to him have one extra day, especially for a guy that he depends on that late life on his fastball.
Yeah.
That's what makes him special. And he threw about 100 pitches today. So, you got to be careful with that. Hopefully it doesn't get to a Game 7, but we'll see.
Good point. It may not come down to that anyway. But I want to talk about Jose Altuve. 1 for 5, but a run scored in the 5th. He was in the middle of that
1 for 5, saw 5 pitches.
Yep. Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean,
felt like it.
No, seriously. I mean, that was it felt like it, honestly, outside of Bregman's 2-run homer, it felt like the same thing with Bregman too. Bregman was super aggressive, and it felt like Bregman was 1 for 5 on 5 pitches. It felt like I know that sequence that he hit the 2-run RBI was certainly a good at bat for him. He battled in that for sure, but it seemed like the same thing for Bregman. His only hit was that big one, so you'll take that.
He was swinging at strikes, Brandon. Like that's where, like at least with Bregman, if he's swinging early, it's a strike.
Right.
And his approach was right. Where Altuve is just trying to pull everything, and they're pitching him outside. Where Bregman's like, this guy throws 101 miles an hour, and he's throwing me outside. I'm not going to try and pull it. And that was, if Aledmys Diaz would have done that earlier in the game, maybe you score. But we have so many guys that are just trying to hit it 700 feet. And that's why they're so hit or miss.
Well, that's why I think Smoltz was about to jump out of the booth when Nola threw him a pitch inside. Altuve, I'm speaking of. And Altuve hits it. Smoltz says, that's all he's looking for. Like, he's struggling with literally everything else, and you're going to give him the sweet spot. Just, as a pitcher, you could tell it was maddening for Smoltz to watch that, because he's like, this guy's struggling, and you're going to give him the only pitch. You're throwing him the only pitch, or I should say the only, but the easiest pitch for him to hit. That's right in his red zone.
He wants to pull, and it was in.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how I feel, because we saw Hensley get that start. We saw him get pulled for Mancini at the end of the game. And then they go back to Diaz because he played left field. Jordan was in the DH spot tonight. And so you have Diaz playing left field, but it's that rotation of guys. And so you just wonder, will we see Hensley again?
I think they have to consider. I mean, Diaz just looks lost at the plate. I mean,
but so does Mancini, and we keep throwing him out there.
Those guys have combined for like 1 hit. I mean, Mancini's like 0 for 17 now. So you can't run him out there again. So why not give Hensley a shot? It's funny. My wife asked me, like, Hensley, this guy hardly ever plays. Why is he DHing tonight? And I was like, what's he going to do? Not get a hit? It's like, that's what they get every night out of the DH. And sure enough, he got a hit, and he can run a little bit. He can play some defense for you. I think the other thing is, Jordan's still not right. So you need every bit of offense you can get. You really do. You're relying on Bregman so much and Tucker.
I mean, you think about it, this game really got out of hand because Nola made mistakes. Nola made a mistake to Altuve specifically, but he made mistakes to Altuve and to Pena. And then Alvarado comes in and drills Jordan, so it's like the guy that's been struggling, you throw him a gimme, and then one of the other guys that's been struggling, you drill him and put him on base without even having to swing. And so it's really the Phillies pitching, when you think about it, that really set them up, that put them behind the 8 ball this evening, and it allowed that that 5th inning to happen.
And Pena coming through there, after Altuve got that hit, he was seeing so many breaking balls, but you know what happens? You throw a whole lot of them. Eventually you're going to hang 1 or 2. Yeah. And Pena was ready for it. He had 2 hits tonight where he crushed the ball. So he's been nice. And after Altuve, you've been depending on him to get on base, get some hits, and, and play a great shortstop for you. So way to go, Pena. And just really, he's fixing his stuff on the fly, his issues, the way teams are attacking him. It's like, if we could get Jordan. Did you hear the broadcast? They were talking about Jordan was out there for extra hitting before the game. Right. They were, messing with his stance, because they said a lot of the work that he put in the game before, when they actually went and played in the game, he was falling back into his old mechanics, which happens all the time in baseball. That's what makes baseball so difficult, is you practice something in the cage and then you revert back to muscle memory when the real bullets fly. So I think that's really awesome to see a rookie like Pena be able to work through that in real time.
And it's not like he's not still falling susceptible to the strikeout low and away. I mean, he is. He had 2 Ks tonight, but he was also 2 for 5 with a run scored.
Yeah.
So
and there was on breaking balls, I believe, too, or at least one of them was for sure on
was a hang. Yeah. And that's just really, but he was in the middle of that, and he seems seemingly in the middle of a lot. It's seemingly like when the big moments are happening, Jeremy Pena is there, and you could not ask more from Jeremy Pena. The guy is your ALCS MVP in his rookie season, wins a Gold Glove. I mean, it is stupid to say it out loud. Like when you listen to it, like when you say the Astros lost Carlos Correa and then get back and they plug in a rookie with no experience at the big league level. Plug in like he's as green gets as far as now. Granted, he's an older rookie, but as far as experience gets, he's got none. Plugs right in, hits the ground running, gives the team confidence in him. It doesn't make it to where it's like if he comes out of the gate struggling, then it's like, oh, is he really ready for it? But he came out of the gate, hit the ground running to where he could give Dusty and Click confidence that this was his position. This was going to be, and even when he went into the offensive slump, his defense never slumped. He finishes the year, wins a Gold Glove in his rookie year at shortstop in the American League. In the American League, he gets the Golden Glove shortstop in his rookie year. That's amazing.
It is. And then, Kyle Tucker wins it in the outfield for the Astros. He was terrific, and he's had a lot of big at bats. I'm telling you, what he did to Nola in game 1 is one of the reasons they pitched the way they did in the 5th inning, knowing that Tucker was coming up, because he was on him again today, man. He had a double. It was awesome. And the commenter right there, great job by those guys, but it doesn't happen if Javier doesn't just have the entire Phillies lineup on lockdown.
Yeah. He makes a great point. Joshua makes a great point. And if you don't recognize that picture, that's the college pick of James Harden without the beard. I recognize that pick. Joshua makes a great point, we talked about earlier, which was that I felt like the ump squeezed him a little bit, but it never got into the hands of the umps because there were so many swings and misses tonight.
And he tried to stay ahead in the count. I mean, that's what I think killed me with McCullers is just, it's always 3-1, 2-0, 3-2. McCullers pitches like that all the time, whether he's on it or he's not. That's just how he pitches. But it's a dangerous way to pitch because if you don't get him to chase on 3-2, now you got to rally. A guy's on first base. And in the postseason,
I don't think Smoltz was rooting for Philly. I think Smoltz always tells the story through the eyes of the pitcher. And so I think whenever he's describing the game, he can really get frustrated with how the pitcher's approach is because that's just the lens that he sees. He sees it the way he would be competing. And so I think just depending on what the situation is, maybe it sounds like that.
I feel like it's the other guy, Brandon, not the Joe Davis guy.
Yes.
And Arian Prophet here he was trying to jinx it. Like I said, they had a counter. Brandon talked about it earlier, how many times they mentioned no hitter. But when that line drive went to Tucker, when Monterio was in the game, right field, line out to right. I mean, they wanted that thing broken open, or at least he did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would you want that on your network to have a no-hitter go down? That's a way more exciting story than a one-hitter and a 5-0 loss. Come on, man.
Yeah, I think so too. It's one of those things that, again, we talk about jinxes and superstition and, umps and stuff, but when you got the goods, you got the goods. And the Astros came out clearly with the goods tonight.
They did. Oh, our man Jack Brame here sent us this from Brian McTaggart. Dusty Baker said Javier could give the Astros 2 to 3 innings if the World Series goes to a game 7.
So there you go.
So there you go from Dusty. But I like the thought of just 2 to 3 innings because, like I said, what makes him special is that late life, that invisible fastball. And a guy that throws that many fastballs, he better have it. These are big league hitters.
Yeah, and he's a guy who loses the zone sometimes, and if he doesn't feel 100%, you hate to, you don't want to give the Phillies base runners. And when Javier's not himself, he's walking a lot of guys, and so that's a recipe for disaster when you have a lineup of Schwarber, Real Muto, and Bryce Harper, like guys who can just put them in the seats. And so that's a recipe for disaster if you're giving them free passes, and Javier can do that when he's not on his game.
We are ignoring Garcia and Urquidy. I mean, couldn't those guys be options in Game 7?
They could. Boy,
Urquidy looked really good yesterday.
Garcia gives me
the willies.
I mean, does anybody remember last year? Like Garcia giving up the gargantuan home run over the train tracks.
Yeah.
Garcia also gave up the game-winning home run.
Real Muto.
Yeah, against Real Muto. So
he also had some great performances. Do the good with the bad. Remember how great he was in the Mariners game.
5 innings of shutout baseball that allowed Jeremy Pena to eventually hit that game-winning home run for them. And then came out and closed it. Like five innings and also closed the game. And that was amazing. Yeah, no, you're right. You take the good with the bad. I don't know. It's really tough. I know they're not going to give it to Hunter Brown, even though that would be my preference. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love to see Hunter Brown bridge, to your bullpen as a piggyback for Christian Javier. But we'll see.
He kind of crapped his pants in that Yankees game, and that doesn't mean I wouldn't go back to him, but I just wonder if Dusty will.
I mean,
he got out of it, but
he crapped his pants.
He couldn't throw a strike for 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, I mean, but he also got 2 outs.
Yeah,
and the runners got stranded. So it's one of those things where, he wasn't great, but also like it wasn't enough to scare me away from it. Like
8 straight balls terrifies me.
Sure.
It's Game 7 of a World Series, it's just.
But that's what we're talking about with Javier too.
Yeah.
Javier can throw. When he's not in the zone, when he's wild, it's scary. So but the thing is that we have Justin freaking Verlander, and you can't. The guy's got a 6+ ERA in the World Series. Like that's troubling. Like you can't even count on that. And you also don't want to put too much on your bullpen. You want to use your bullpen just enough. You don't want to overexpose them to a lineup that's really good, that's going to be ready to break out of this, no-hitting slump that they're in. And I think, which I believe extends back to 2 innings of the previous game as well. So I believe there was the 9. So I believe it's 11 straight innings right now of no-hit ball the Astros pitching staff has put on the Phillies. But you can't count on anything. There's nothing you can take for granted. And for all the talk about the Phillies having momentum, and you mentioned it being undefeated at home. Well, guess what? Prior to yesterday, the Astros hadn't lost on the road.
Yeah.
That was the first loss that they've suffered on the road. Tonight, they correct things. And these are the first 2 games they've lost in the playoffs, period. It took them to the World Series to lose their first 2 games. They haven't lost 2 in a row so far.
Yeah.
So, the Astros, these are, you perfectly described it. This is 2 juggernaut teams right now. And I think when we talked about this in Game 2, we said it's the immovable object versus the unstoppable force, which is a so-called team of destiny. That's white hot, that gets hot at exactly the right time. No one sees it coming. They come out of nowhere, blaze right to the World Series. And then here are the Astros, the juggernauts who have been just methodically knocking it down all season long. Slow and easy wins the race. They don't burst out to a big lead the way that the Yankees did. They just do what they do, which is just grind away at bats, grind away games. And then here you are. The Astros drop one in Game 1, give up and then go on the road, steal one right back after getting blown out. after getting your doors blown off in the previous game and feeling like all the energy was sucked out of you, and instead you suck out all the energy out of a stadium that's notorious for its crowd noise. You silence them and you no-hit them. You put 5 on them and then no-hit them. That's the ultimate answer back. It's the
little
reason
doubt. Put a little doubt in their mind.
A little bit of doubt, absolutely. It's the reason why you can't take anything for granted and you can't get too high or too low after wins and losses. This is a marathon. A 7-game series is a marathon. And we said last night, the Astros steal one, you're going to feel a lot differently after that. The Astros have stolen one and did it with style.
Yeah.
And so now, again, it's that, like you said, that seed planted about, we are beatable at home. This is something that can happen. And so now you've got a best of 3. It comes down to a best of 3. And
you got JV and Fromber going in your next 2 games for you. I told you before the season, Brandon, it's going to come down to best of 3. You got JV and Fromber going in the first 2. We'll see what happens in the last one. Would you take that? Oh yeah, you would take that.
Absolutely. So, this is what you're here for. And I'll say this too, is that if Verlander can't get it done and be Verlander-esque in a pivotal game 5, it makes it real easy for Jim Crane. There is not going to be any debate. You and I talked about this when we were putting some topics together for the Sports Map videos.
Yep.
And, we talked about that, which is if Verlander can't perform when the lights are the brightest for them, for whatever reason, if he can't get it done, with the pitching depth on this team, it makes it really easy to let him walk because you're not going to dig yourself a hole salary rise when you have other holes to fill,
DH.
Which is, you've got too many holes to fill, to worry about spending $40 million on a guy who's going to win the Cy Young during the regular season and then completely disappear when the lights get the brightest.
100%. And they do have to go address DH, whatever they do, whether they bring Michael Brantley back or they look for somebody else. They got to go do that. And I mean, let's face it, you'd be better off with Zach Greinke as your designated hitter in this postseason.
I'd murder for Zach Greinke.
What they've been running out there. Just think about that. You'd be better off with Zach Greinke hitting for you in your DH than what they've been running out there. It's been incredible.
No, it is. And what else is incredible is that the World Series is here and Academy Sports and Outdoors has everything you need to rep the Astros because it's told you. We told you. Like, don't get too low after a loss. It's just one loss. It's just one game. Doesn't matter. And so now there's going to be, like Josh mentioned earlier, all the watch parties. You got to rep the Astros in style, like the brand, like the good stuff, like the brands that you trust, not the stuff that like they sell in the old abandoned HEB parking lot that's down on West Side. You know what I mean? Like that, like where it's just like, this doesn't look, the H on the Astros logo doesn't look correct on that.
Alderez jersey. I don't want an Alderez jersey.
I don't even know who Yorbon is, but you want to get the good stuff from Academy. And if you can't go to Academy, even though they're all over the place, then go shop online at academy.com. Get stuff for the entire family. I mean, is there anything cuter than a little baby in Astros gear? No. There's nothing really cute. Well, maybe one thing, a dog in Astros gear. Do they carry dog clothes? Maybe. If anybody's going to carry it, Academy Sports and Outdoors is going to carry it. But you could just get whatever you want there for the whole family. Step up to the plate. Make your play for game-changing gear today. Nike New Era, 47 brand and more. Academy Sports and Outdoors, new styles arriving daily.
Official sponsor.
The official sponsor and our official sponsor, which almost makes us the official sponsor of the Astros postgame show. If they didn't have one already, we would be this close. We are this close to being.
We're official. Not saying it's not true.
Yeah, we're not saying it. It's not the sponsor. Man, we've gotten so many. I think
Comments?
Safe to say that we have set the record for comments tonight.
Guys, please hit like on the videos while
Yeah,
we're talking about this. Like,
yeah, you should have said that when we had when we were at peak. We still have a lot of people in the room here, but yeah, you should have.
Guys, please hit like on the video, subscribe.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference for us. We're trying to grow the channel, bring you all the fun Astros stuff. This just helps us grow. It costs you nothing.
It costs you nothing, and it helps us in the algorithm. I hate to beg, but I'm going to beg, man, because I don't have any shame. So sorry about it. I'm going to beg, please, 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 pretty please, for the Astros, good luck. For the good mojo with the Astros and your Houston, hometown, wherever you are, whether you're watching in Moscow or in British Columbia or in Brazil or Germany or any of the places that we've heard from in these first post-game shows, just hit like and subscribe. We really do appreciate it. It really does help the algorithm and, help us out. I wanted to get your thoughts on the bullpen because we saw Brian Abreu, Montero, and Ryan Presley come in, and it's the World Series, and they're walking into a no-hitter that's being handed to them, and they're like,
again,
hot, here you go.
They did it in New York. It was
right.
I don't know. I don't think Abreu was a part of it, but Montero and I believe Presley were. So those two were, along with Javier.
And it was Phil Maton was also part of that as well, I believe. Or was Phil Maton the immaculate inning? I think Phil Maton was part of that. No,
I know he was the immaculate inning.
Okay.
Either way, we've seen Montero and Presley and Javier do this thing before. Now they do it in a World Series. Abreu, though, to your point, Brandon, my Lord, that guy's slider is nasty.
Disgusting.
He's throwing 99 on the corners. And just you see his confidence. Like after the guys watched Javier, you could kind of see Abreu's confidence. I was looking at him. I was like, man, he's not worried right now. Yeah. Like he's just letting them hang and just going for it.
Abreu has had a breakout postseason.
Yes,
has had a breakout postseason, and regardless of how this all ends up in the result of it, he is now battle tested.
Yep.
You have now given this guy who has had some up and down experiences with the Astros. And you know what? That's just the story of relief pitching. That is the absolute story of relief pitching.
Year to year deal.
Yeah. From year to year and riding waves of momentum. This year has been the most consistent year for Brian Abreu. And when the stage has been the biggest, Dusty has felt more confident in giving the ball to Brian Abreu than he has Ryan Stanek, and we could not have predicted that prior to the playoffs. We know it now.
That was the heart of the order he went through.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I wanted him to face him. I wanted him to because he's disgusting. When he's on, he's filthy. He's up against Real Muto, Harper, and Castellanos, and strikes out the side.
I love that a few borderline pitches got called strikes against Real Muto, and then he had to chase some pitches that were borderline. And I'm just like, welcome to our life,
right?
Where you're getting pitches called maybe an inch or two off the plate, and then all of a sudden, anything in that area, you got to protect the plate. And then what'd you do? You struck out. How many times has that happened to Chas McCormick, where he's gotten a couple pitches that were off the plate called strikes, and then he's got to protect anything close, and those at bats usually don't work out. So it's nice to see it go back the other way for a change.
Yeah. And Harper got a gift too during that at bat because Abreu threw one again that the quadrant wasn't even close. He threw it square in the outer is up and out and throws it. It's not even close to the edges. It's right in the quadrant. And just gets called a ball, just plain as day. And I was just like looking around. Now look, at the beginning of the game, Christian Vasquez did have some issues in framing Christian Javier's pitches.
Yeah, he jumped up on one of them and cost him a strike.
He did. He one of them, the fastball ran across on him, and he chased it, which cost him a strike call. And there were other pitches where he was just really having trouble. There was one that he missed. He didn't catch it.
Yeah.
And that was a strike as plain as day, but because he didn't corral it in, it gets called a bit. Well, I assume that if he catches it, it gets called a strike, considering how Javier was seemingly squeezed by the home plate umpire. I can't assume that, but it did look like a strike. It should have been a strike.
It felt like as Javier was showing his dominance in the middle innings, it felt like he was getting more calls, which is just, the human element. Like when you're seeing somebody pitch a magical game and he's right around the corner the whole time, you're more likely to give him that borderline pitch. And that's why, guys like McCullers that are always behind 2-0, 3-1, they don't get as many pitches from the umpires because they're so wild. So anyway, that's something that worked for Javier. You got to be around the zone. Hopefully Verlander's around the zone tomorrow and not pitching from behind. It's when you get that Verlander strike zone, is when you're constantly just right on the corner. If you're missing, you don't get that luxury. And the guys, they're less likely to swing. If you're not throwing strikes, they're not chasing, especially a team like the Phillies, and they're not facing a left-hander in Verlander. So, that makes it a little easier for them too.
I think it's going to be JV's going to have to go back in and reestablish his fastball. He's going to have to be fastball Verlander. And that's what you want. That's when he's at his best, is, just painting with the fastball. And then so much so that he doesn't have to introduce the breaking stuff until the second time through the order. Then he starts showing more pitches. And that's what you want. You want Verlander to be able to get through the rotation one time through with really predominantly fastballs and just really dominate with that and establish the zone. And that's what you want. That's an ideal Verlander scenario. But Verlander having to throw get me over breaking stuff is not going to be a recipe for success for the Astros. But
or throwing it down the middle.
Yeah. No, that too. Hanging. Well, but again,
even the fastball down the middle, you can't throw it there, especially if it's not up here. Lefties, man, if you throw it low and in middle, it's getting crushed. I like Trevor's comment there. Yuli has been so good at clutch hitting. He stole a bag today. I mean, you 38 years old stealing bases in the World Series. I mean, like what? Yuli, man, he's been so good. Knock on wood. I've been so impressed with Yuli this World Series.
2-out single in the fourth.
Yep.
The RBI single and stolen base in the fifth.
Yep. Now, and playing first base like he can. Man, that was close on that one down the line that Yuli dove for that they called foul. I was very happy about that.
Oh, absolutely. No, I thought the same thing. There were some close. There wasn't a lot of solid contact, but there was a few. There were a few that were solid contact. That was one, and the other one was the one that lined out directly to Tucker. We didn't even talk about the play from Tucker. Was it in the bottom of the ninth where he kind of had to lean way back to get the pop out?
Where his glove was almost touching the ground.
From Hoskins, right? So Hoskins pops out, and Tucker is sizing up the pop out, and all of a sudden he just leans back, like Mattress Mac. And I was like, whoa. That play reminded me of I guess it was closeout game against the Yankees when Pena bobbled the ground ball or the line out, where it's like he caught the pop up, but then it kind of bounced out and he had to kind of recatch it again. It reminded me of that, where you're like, oh, come on now. Come on. A little too close. Warren says he just came for the guitar talk. Well, that's for the after show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the after show.
Yeah, it's my Andre Johnson jersey, my Altuve jersey, and my Marshall stacks.
Yeah.
Inslee season the rest of the way.
Please. Yes.
A lot of people are thinking that, man.
Yep. I don't want to let time get away from us. So I want everybody to give us their MVP for the game. Go ahead and put your vote in now. I'm going to put everybody.
Put it in the comments. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Javier's, but there were some other big performances today too.
Yeah. Let's so like I said, we're gonna let everybody fill it up, and I'm gonna hand it off to you, Josh. I'm gonna let you go first. Who was your MVP for Game 4?
I mean, I can't keep repping Christian Javier if I don't give it up to him in a combined no-hitter.
Yeah.
I got to go with Christian Javier. He gave them 5 innings to get the offense together and not be pressing. And that was huge. So I'll go to Christian Javier.
I want to give it to Nola, if I'm being honest, because I felt like Nola, but I don't want to be petty about it. This was tough for me, but this was tough for me because I felt like Bregman had such a giant hit in a big moment. Yeah. Even though he didn't give you the lead, that hit was, he scored, he has a 2-run double for you. And that really sucked the air out of the stadium in that moment. But I am also going to go to Christian Javier for the game MVP. And the reason why is because it was so gigantic to be able to silence the Phillies bat in Philly. You had to have it. This was the performance that you absolutely had to have from Christian Javier. Now, did you have to have a no-hitter? No, that's just the cherry on top. But
did you have to give up the most home runs in World Series history in a game the day before?
Right. But makes this one feel that much sweeter, right? Remember the Beavis and Butthead, the old Beavis and Butthead cartoon when he was like, why do certain parts of songs suck and other parts of songs rock? Why don't they just make the parts that rock last longer? And he's like, well, because if you don't have the parts that suck, then you don't know how the parts that rock, you don't know that they're good. And so that's what you need. You need a 7-0 loss, a punch in the face to appreciate a 5-0 series tying combined no-hitter from the Astros pitching staff. Let's get to our votes from our commenters here. And I think it's going to be a landslide here.
Yep.
We got Javier. There
you go, Warren.
Come on now. There we go. Javier and Breg. Okay, see, that's where I was kind of leaning too. Shady's going to go Bregman.
Yep.
Javier. Here we go. Breggy.
Oh, Breggy.
So Sokolov says Javier are in God. So there you go.
Why not?
Javier set the tone.
Yep.
Overwatch says Tucker. Okay, cool. Javier. Backlash says Vasquez. That's funny. Bregman.
Yeah. Bucky's.
Average Joe says Diaz 1 for 21 in the series. Javier. Hakeem says Breggs is the MVP of the series so far. No argument there.
Hard to argue with that. Yeah.
But we're not going to jump ahead. Javier. Mattress Mac. I like that. John David's got co-MVPs. He has basically the pitching staff, the Javier and the bullpen tonight. So that is, hey, you get a combined no-hitter, you can get a combined MVP. I'll take that as a vote.
Yep.
So a lot of votes for a lot of votes for Bregman in here as well, but obviously the overwhelming consensus is Christian Javier. I definitely appreciate that. South 3 Beat says Jordan for taking 99 in the ribs.
And I like that Jordan, at least he got a hit tonight. One of his pop outs was to the warning track, so maybe he's starting to get going here.
Brian Todd
Dubon for DH.
The DH. I'm going to pass on that one. I'm going to pass.
It couldn't be any worse.
No, but at least I feel like Hensley has the ability to do
Pop
a little
one out.
something with the bat. And so, yeah, man, I definitely, I understand the sentiment. You want to see something different because it does feel like the definition of insanity to continue to run out either Diaz or Mancini, and when they're just giving you nothing. They're giving you nothing.
And in big spots, Brandon, how many times did Diaz come up with an opportunity to break this thing open, and he just
Well, I mean, let's
couldn't
talk
get it
about
done?
the top of the second, because that's really where that's kind of exemplified. You get a leadoff double for Tucker, and Tucker goes to third on a Gurriel grounder, which was a
Great
good
play.
good bit of base running. Like, was able to read the ball, the play, and could kind of see the play happening. Gets to third on good base running. So here you are, you got one out with a guy at third. Vasquez comes up and gets hit by a pitch. And this is really big because Vasquez, his history against Nola is actually pretty good. So Nola gets off easy here. He drills Vasquez. So Vasquez, now you've got Vasquez, who is a slow runner, who could get, you can ground into a double play. That's if Diaz can even get bat on the ball, which he couldn't in this. Diaz swings wildly at strike three. That looked like it was a foot out of the zone. It looked like it was a foot out of the zone, and he almost struck out on a pitch that was 2 feet out of the zone and the pitch before it. He has no concept of the strike zone right now. He's completely off time.
Or what the task is, Brandon. Just Did you see some of the shifts? The whole right side was open. He just had to poke it through.
Right.
But he's trying to hit it 700 feet. Like, we don't need a 700. You don't get more runs if it goes 700 feet. Just get it through the infield, score the run, take the lead. That's where I wanted to have Dusty call a timeout. Somebody just go talk to him. Like, man, you look like you said, Smoltz said he's jumpy. You look like you're trying to hit this ball harder than you've hit any ball your entire life. Just get us some contact and put it in play.
Yeah. And so then McCormick comes up and watches a hanging ball or a hanging breaking ball land right in the middle, like up, like just absolutely misses a very, very hittable pitch.
He doesn't like swinging at curveballs, Brandon.
No, he doesn't. And he doesn't like pitches in.
No,
like he's not, like it jams him up
away and down. Yep. That's where he's looking, and for heat. Yep.
If you throw him a down and away ball, then that's just on you.
Yeah.
That's just on you, because that's all he's, and I'm looking at you, Garrett Cole. I'm looking at you. Like, if you throw him a down and away ball, like, that's literally the only place where McCormick's going to burn you, or at least I don't want to say the only place, because we've seen McCormick hit some jam shots and he's had a very good postseason. You could not have counted on McCormick giving you the consistency out of center field that he's been giving you. Again, and you've needed it because you haven't got anything from Jordan and Altuve for most of the playoffs, outside of Jordan's 2 big games in the ALDS against the Mariners. But yeah, so McCormick watches a breaking ball middle and then strikes out on a breaking ball low out of the zone, and then that ends the threat. You had one out with a guy on, and you had
one out guy on third, right?
Right. Yeah. One out guy on third, and
can't get him home.
It just feels like every time it's in the middle of a rally, here comes the DH spot, or here comes Diaz. It's either here comes Diaz or here comes Mancini.
Are they going? I'd stop pitching to Yuli. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm not afraid of you guys hurting me after that.
No, it's really it's frustrating from a fan perspective. It's frustrating for 2 reasons. One is it's on to Dusty to make those decisions. Like, you have, at some point, all these guys are showing you what they are, and you don't have enough. Like, there's a maximum of 3 games that is left in this series. You don't have time to play around anymore. You don't have time for feel-good stories. You don't have time for moral victories. And this whole thing of like, I trust my vets to break out of it. Diaz is lost, and it's not a small sample size.
No.
Mancini's lost, same deal. Hensley is at least giving you something. And right now, you need everything.
Yeah.
You need everything. This is the last 3 games potentially of the season. You're in a best of 3 series right now. You need everything. There is no more room for error. There's no more hoping guys are going to break out of it. But we'll be talking about this tomorrow, because I can almost guarantee it's not going to be Hensley in the lineup tomorrow. I can almost guarantee it. I hope I'm wrong about it, but I don't think that I am. I think it'll be Mancini in tomorrow. I almost, I'm not a gambling guy, but I would bet on it.
I'd say he's probably the favorite. I don't think you can run Diaz out there again. And Hensley, clearly Dusty doesn't totally trust. Dusty pulled him in a game where he had a hit.
Right. But that shows you what Dusty's value. Dusty's trying to get Mancini going, because the value to Dusty is, if I can get Mancini going, the series is over with. Like you got another guy who can hit homers. He's got pop in the bat. And so if he can get anybody hot, you feel like it can tip the balance. Maybe it's much to say that the series is over with, but you feel like the law of averages say that Mancini's due.
You say that, but dude hit under 200 for the entire time he was with the Astros.
Yeah,
this isn't like a Diaz thing where it's a postseason deal.
Right.
This is Mancini has shown you who he is the entire time since he joined the ball club. And the postseason, he's just gotten worse.
Yeah.
At least Diaz had some stretches where he was really great. And Hensley has had some stretches where he's really good. And his numbers overall are good with Hensley. It's just lack of opportunity for him. But Diaz, I think he's got to go to the bench. And I'm a guy that was saying a month or so ago they should bring him back next year. He was hitting so good. And now he's fighting it, man.
He is fighting it. And if you are looking for Astros World Series merch and you don't want to fight it, you're not trying to fight the crowds, you're trying to get your Astros sweet World Series gear, where do they need to go?
Guys, it's Academy Sports and Outdoors. That's the only place, guys. They're the official sponsor and retailer of the Houston Astros right there. Get over to Academy right now. We've talked about it. You're going to want to go to one of those watch parties. Maybe you're going to spend some money and go to World Series Game 6. You're going to want to have the right gear. I mean, And what the great thing is, if you're going to pay that high a ticket price, you're going to want to buy your gear at Academy because they have the best prices. You won't have to spend a bunch of money on your shirts, your jerseys, your caps, whatever you want. Even the name brands aren't that pricey. Your Nikes, whatever you're looking for, guys, they have it. They have the best deals, and they have new stuff arriving daily. So you can get on your phone right now, academy.com, see what they have coming in, head over there, pick it up, or have it delivered, however you want to do it, guys. It's all the officially licensed stuff. It's the good stuff. You got Christmas coming up. Hey, it's good for the whole family. Maybe you want to get a couple Astros jerseys for Christmas. It's November. It's right around the corner, guys. So get over to Academy today, official sponsor of the Astros. They have all the licensed gear, the biggest brands. Get over to Academy right now.
And they're the official sponsors of this post-game show. And the weather's cold. It's just going to get, well, it's not cold early, but we can pretend it's going to get colder eventually, I think. So you'll want a hoodie, and if nothing else, maybe some rain. I don't know. It was raining the past couple of days, so maybe get you an Astros slicker. So this is the time of the show in which we wind down. We want to thank our sponsor Academy for allowing us to do this. We were just going to do this anyway, and then Academy said they were really excited to sponsor us and have us do these shows throughout the World Series. They started for just a few games, and then they were like, no, let's just do it for the whole series.
Do it.
And so we're really excited. So if you guys enjoy these post-game shows, and we enjoy you being here, we enjoy the interaction, and we enjoy you guys coming in and being a part of this community. If you appreciate that and appreciate Academy for allowing us to do that, then please go visit them, give them a shout, tell the cashiers that we sent you. Just kidding. They don't care.
Like who?
Yeah. They're going to say what, but anyway, but if you do want to tell people about us or the podcast, that'd be fantastic. If you haven't hit subscribe on the channel already, do that. Click like. It helps us with the algorithm. So we can That way you don't even have to tell anybody. If you just hit like, YouTube will tell somebody for you. So you don't even have to make an effort. All you have to do is just click like, and that's basically telling somebody for us. So Josh, I appreciate your efforts tonight. This was a lot better of a game to talk about. Obviously, the outcome was a lot better. Everyone, we will see you again tomorrow night, Game 5, hopefully talking about another Astros win. Thank you. Good night. Go Astros.